Hello, if you're new here, my name is Roxy. I'm an artist. You see my work behind me, and I make studio vlogs and the occasional video about certain topics. But I felt like I was missing something, and that's been some longer videos about specific topics that I'm interested in, and in this case it's about platforms. I made one before. It's called Long Thoughts, struggling with financial anxiety. It's a really weird one because it's a very emotional one, but I didn't want to just abandon that sort of genre of videos because I feel like in the studio vlogs it's like all aesthetic and nice and there's like a storyline, but there's so many more topics that I want to talk about with you, since that now I know that some people are watching. It might be interesting for some of you, that I don't want to incorporate in the longer studio vlogs because it feels like it would be a waste of the footage there. So, let's just see this kind of video as a podcast-like video. You can put it on in the background and we're just gonna talk about some stuff. And I don't know, maybe there'll be like one every half a year. Maybe some topics just pop up and we're gonna talk about them. So I'm also using my iPhone as a microphone for now, so I hope that's gonna work. I tested it out just now, but I don't have a microphone yet for this space. I need a new one with that I can put on my clothes, but they cost money, so I'm just waiting a little bit. Especially, I'm actually trying to save it up via Patreon, so I think the mic is like 200 or something euros, and I kind of want to buy it with my Patreon subscription money. Well, and that's also something that we're going to talk about, Patreon. Not as a sign up for my Patreon, but as like a platform itself. I even have a little list with topics that I wanted to talk about. So we're gonna see how far we get. So the reason that I'm making this video is because I think platforms are changing quite a bit, and I've noticed it for the last several years. I think especially the last year. I think TikTok is like rising, and I'm not on there though. I don't think it works with my work, but I'm noticing now, especially, I got an email about Patreon changing their platform. Like they went through this whole rebranding deal. They have a new logo, which is, I don't know. I do think that the concept is interesting though. Like they have this changing logo that you can change for every creator, or they're making that happen. It's not as of yet, but it's like they're creating their own place on the internet for every creator. And since that was already the whole function of Patreon, like it's your own place without an algorithm, without ever keeping up with the change of the algorithm and changing your content or your art or your writing to that. I think it's really interesting because I feel like they are kind of coming for other social media platforms. And I'm not sure, but I think Patreon is still quite small compared to the other ones, of course. But it's also really big, and it's basically the only way to get paid as a creator. And I think that's really interesting because that seems like a little shift, and it might be slow, but it feels like this is the first step. And with platforms like this, it's going really, really fast. So I'm really excited to see where that goes, and that's why I wanted to talk about this. There was a few things missing from Patreon that they are incorporating, and that's a way to connect with the people that are subscribed to your Patreon. So you can now have chats, they can share images with you, and it feels a lot more organic, like a lot more less like talking to a wall, because that's kind of what it feels like sometimes. I know my Patreon is really small still, but I've like with everything that I have doubts about, I kind of Google it with a Reddit and a Reddit forum. And I noticed that even people that have like hundreds of patrons have a very little connection to people that are subscribed over there, because it's just a different platform. Like on Instagram, it's usual to have like leave a comment and chat with people, and it's just a more natural place to be. And now you can do it on Patreon too. I still have to test it out. I'm going to though, but it feels like they are incorporating some things from other platforms to work for their platform. I think that's really interesting. So that's a little bit about Patreon. I'm even, just to show you, I'm really interested in this topic. I'm actually reading a book about it. This one is called Stuck on the Platform. Reclaiming the Internet. It's by a Dutch writer, but it's in English. The writer is Geert Lovink, and it's by a Dutch publishing house called Valis. If you're not a creator, or if you're not on the internet, like marketing your own work or sharing your own work, it might not be as interesting. But since I am, I'm just really interested in this specific topic, and I think this book is actually, I thought it would be more about, like, I haven't finished it yet, but I thought it would be more about the internet now and just general internet, but it's actually started in COVID. So it's a lot about Zoom and how we're like Zoom tired and everything. So I guess that really dated quickly. I really don't want to hear anything about COVID anymore. But I do think there's still some really interesting points in there. And as I said, I haven't finished it yet, so it might be on more later on. But there's this one specific quote, since we're on the topic of Patreon anyway. And it says, "I'm starting to feel like a stripper dancing on this Substack newsletter pole, and everyone is cheering, but so few readers are actually making it rain," says Michelle Locke, sketching out the yawning gulf between free culture and a fair living wage for content creators. So, in itself, that quote is really great. And I feel like that's really why the shift is happening. Like, the platforms that are here now are like Instagram and TikTok. Twitter is somewhere. I don't know where it is, but I'm not on there, but let's just forget about that one. And I feel like there's so many artists out there that are sharing their work, but they have to do it in a specific way to get seen. And that's why there is a shift, because if I scroll my phone, I delete the Instagram app like every week for a few days, but then I have to reinstall it because I want to post something. But if I'm on there and I scroll through my reels, they are entertaining, but it's the same theme over and over and over again, but it's another artist. And I would just love to see someone's own voice on there, but there's just no way to show that to a lot of people without being butchered by the algorithm. And I think there's like some exceptions to that, but it's all like the most of them is just the same. And I get it. I mean, I've tested it out myself, and if I make a video to a specific sound or in a specific way, like you have to hook, you have to hook someone in the first 2 seconds, and I get that, but that leads to the same video over and over and over and over again. So you get like oversaturated with different art, but in the same context, and that just makes it so generic. And I don't really. There's like a very, very, very few artists that I see on there that jump out to me and make me want to look at more of their work, because it's in such a unity sauce. I have no idea how to say that, but like it's just a generic sauce, and it's such a shame. And that's why I see a lot of people even talk on reels about that, like how that's just not the way they want to create. but that's why I think it's super important to have that kind of competition going on with the platform. And I think Patreon is kind of doing that now. I'm also thinking about what kind of impact that has if you haven't created that audience yet, because you need that for Patreon, because otherwise no one is going to see it. I'm actually really curious to see how the free membership of Patreon is going to happen, because they introduce a free membership, so you can join, you can see the public post, but you have to pay for the paid post, obviously. And then there's also a shopping option, so you can kind of, for example, I teach online lessons, and I could offer you the way to buy those separate lessons via my Patreon. And I'm actually super surprised that Instagram hasn't incorporated that yet. It's one of the first things that I would incorporate in something like that. It's like it makes so much sense. And I think it's a really, I think I'm gonna use it. Like that don't have their audience yet, because maybe they will like start their Patreon and it will be like this new social media and people can sign up for free, and once they grow a bit then people will sign up for the paid option. I don't know, maybe it will always have to be with another platform. But it feels like you're kind of getting your own place on the internet again without that feeling of having to adapt to a platform's wishes and needs. And that's for me really interesting, because I feel like we have been going through this phase of having to get your own place on the internet again. Maybe that sounds weird or maybe that sounds like very Windows 95. But I mean, as a person that grew up with the internet, I really do miss separate websites. Like, I think I was on the internet since I was like 11-ish, and I used to be on a lot of these forums, like girls magazines forums, and I actually met real life friends there, and we just connected there, and you just found a lot of people in the same age group and the same, I don't know, it was just very nice. And there was also drama, but then you didn't necessarily have to be in on that drama. You could just skip it, or you could just read it and ignore it. But it also felt like quite a safe environment, because it's like, it probably wasn't safe because it's open to everyone who is not a girl of 12. But, you know, I just needed a place to vent my thoughts, and I didn't necessarily want to share that with other people in real life. And that way I did get my emotions out, and I could share it with people that I actually met in real life later on. But it had like this safe internet place, you know? And now you don't really have that, because once you share something in the world, I guess you have Reddit or some other forum. I mean, you still have forums, but you have to really look for them. And honestly, for artists, I don't know what they are. I mean, I used to be on deviantart. I still don't know how to pronounce it. I think it's deviantart. But that always felt, well, that one felt safe. DeviantArt felt okay, because there were people on there that were really, really, really good, but there were also people there that were kind of medium. And I'm not saying that in a mean way, but I'm saying that in a way that it felt okay to join that platform, because there weren't just like movie star animators and illustrators and digital artists on there. It was also normal people. So I mean, that one was there, but that I think it exists still, but it's not like active anymore, or maybe it's just out of my interest now, I guess. And then I remember you had like a website called Concept.org or Concept Art or something, and that one felt like really scary to join. Like I didn't dare, because that was actually people working in like the gaming and film industry, and they made such beautiful work, and I just didn't. I just didn't have the heart to join. And maybe if you hear this, you can hear that I actually had a dream of being a concept artist at one point, until figuring out that wasn't my thing. I'm not even talking about Neopets, that was earlier, but it was also a platform where you could create your own website. Anyway, those things I think don't really exist anymore, or they are just not on my radar anymore. So there's just not really a place to share your thoughts anonymously without it being this big Reddit forum, And I mean, I even remember from those early forum days that at some point, because you were commenting on certain topics so much, people knew you, so you kind of got this respect or something. And this just, I cannot imagine that on a very anonymous platform like a Reddit or whatever. I can imagine it with like a non-anonymous platform where it's like Instagram or YouTube, but I cannot, like, you just, sometimes there's topics that you want to talk about that you don't necessarily want to talk about as yourself, or because it needs time to grow or whatever. And I felt like those places were really safe for that. I'm not sure where I'm going with this. This feels like a separate chapter. But anyway, that disappeared. So that's kind of something that clings to that own space on the internet topic. I mean, everyone can create their own website. This is not a Squarespace ad. This is not a Squarespace ad. But I mean, if you do that, you're gonna be alone. And you don't have the connection like you have with a forum, for example. And I think the connecting part is really important. Like, not everyone has the option on their website to have like a chat function or leave comments or have like the bandwidth to have all those people on their website, because it's really hard to host a website with a lot of people. That's why I think it's super interesting what Patreon is doing, because they're kind of creating that website within a platform. And even though it is on a platform a platform can change, so that's kind of the scary part, but at least it's a step in the right direction, I think. And I think it's also getting back to the stripper pole part and the Substack. I think it's also really interesting because on Instagram, everyone is already expecting to get everything for free. And on Patreon, people aren't. You can literally see the expected payment per month or per product or per post or per workshop listed on there. So you never get the idea that everything is for free, because it's weird that we share everything for free. I have, and I am, and I will, but it's also really strange that you're working such insane hours to create content for someone else that doesn't necessarily get you any work. And it's not weird, I think, if you are a brand and you're selling something and you have people working for you and there's a person being paid to do that stuff. But if you are, like me, an artist working by yourself and you paint, but then you want to sell that painting, and you have to create a video and a story and more videos to sell that one painting, that's probably not going to be sold on the platform because a lot of people are just lurking on there, or like fellow artists, or I don't know. It takes a lot of work for that one painting to sell. And I think that's why I also haven't been sharing that much Patreon content on my Instagram, because I feel like it's just a different audience than that I have on YouTube. It feels like a fresh start on YouTube, and people are more expecting some form of payment, even if it's just in the form of time. By watching an ad, they understand that they watch an ad to get that creator paid. But I feel like if I would put an ad on Instagram, I've only ever done one influencer deal, and that was a super specific one. It only happened this year. It wasn't for that much, but I never really got like sponsorship deals or ads or whatever. But I feel like if I would, then it would be really weird and out of place. But then on YouTube, it feels totally normal. And it should feel normal, because it's not like I want to live in an ad world, like an advertising world, but it's just the truth, and it's just the way that you keep eating without making stuff and making stuff and making stuff. So I think that's like the difference between expecting everything to be free and knowing that some things cost money and you don't have to, but you can buy it. So that's kind of the difference. And I think I should advertise Patreon, for example, more on Instagram, but I just don't. Maybe I'll start a campaign soon, and maybe I'll make like a series of posts about it. I should, but it just feels... I feel like Instagram is kind of on its last days, and I've spent so much time on it, then I just don't feel like it anymore. Like, I like sharing the occasional updates, but I want to do it somewhere else. It's nice to share. I feel like only sharing photos right now, and I know Reels do really well, but I'm also at this point where I have so much content just waiting to get edited. But then once I get to the studio, I just want to paint. I don't want to do that stuff. And I kind of try to do it in tiny batches. But then Instagram kind of make it so that you have the app on your phone if you want to plan a post. I mean, the planning post feature in itself is great, but then you have to keep it on your phone in order to keep it planned and have it in your concepts. So I can't really plan ahead and then delete the app. I have to keep the app on my phone and then so that it posts. But I would love to plan some things like weeks in advance. I don't mind having like a post a week nowadays, because I don't think it works anymore to post every day. But then I know that I am really bad at not looking at Instagram on my phone. So I want to delete it, but I can't. So now I'm in this cycle where I'm just like, it's better to just delete it and not plan that post, because it's there and you're going to look at it, because you don't have a ruggengraat in Dutch, as they say. You don't have a spine. And they're just too good at designing their apps. I mean, I even go in the browser version of the app because it's just really bad, and because it's really badly designed and it's laggy. My brain stops. Like, doesn't just scroll endlessly because the app, the website doesn't really work that well. But that works way better than the Instagram app. So I still get my fill, but I just stop after a few minutes. So that's my problem. That's what kind of also where my struggle is. Like, do I still put energy in this platform? Because I mean, I've built literally 5 years on this platform with this audience that some of them have moved over to YouTube, some of them have moved over to Patreon. I don't just throw that away, right? But I do feel like I want to, but I don't want to. I would love to just move all those people to somewhere else. I mean, a lot of people have also subscribed to my newsletter, so it's a struggle. I think that's like a completely other topic as well, because I'm talking about platforms. The stopping the platforms is a different topic, I think, because why wouldn't you? You know, I see these videos pop up every once in a while, like I quit social media, and then they're on YouTube, but whatever. And it feels so nice. I mean, I just came back from a hiking trip, and hiking and backpacking always clears my mind because I just don't look at my phone. I think there's some button that just unlocks in my head, like, okay, you're always addicted to your phone. No, you're not. And I can just put it away and don't mind it. And it just feels so real, like I want to live in reality instead of living in this digital world. But then when I get at home, I also want to live in the digital world because, new topic, my people are on the internet. My people aren't necessarily next to me, and not even in the studio building. Like, there's some. I have some, obviously, real-life friends that are artists. But there is, I think that would be really making myself small to just hang out with the artists that I know instead of kind of dreaming around the world. And I don't necessarily feel at home in the Dutch art world because it's a very, I don't know, the style is a bit different from what I see happening in the US and in the UK even, especially in Asia, in Japan, etc. And I want to see those things because even if I don't feel at home here with my art, I do feel at home here, but just not my art, then I can look at other places and feel like, oh, wait, my work would be accepted over there. And I'm interested in that kind of work. And there's just not, I mean, it's a tiny country. There's just not space for it here. So that's what I do want from the digital world. And that's what I really need as well from the digital world. And I think like there's a lot of people that need that space, especially if you're living in a secluded area and you don't have access to a lot of art around you. I mean, I didn't used to have a lot of access to art. I mean, I didn't even know where to look as a kid. And I don't think there was Instagram when I was a kid. No, there wasn't. And I think if there was, I would have known a lot earlier what I wanted to do because I would see it. I mean, there was museums, but then that's like A-level art and it's curated by someone, and there weren't a lot of women. I mean, that's a recent thing. So yeah, oh, that's weird. Realization coming in. Anyway, I think that's what's important about digital world. Just having access to that work and to that all those images and impressions and feeling at home, even if it's not literally where you are. Then you kind of delve into this different topic that is comparing, which I'm really, really good at. I shouldn't be. I should really not compare myself to everyone else on the planet. I don't think anyone should, but it's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of a balance. And I think being on a platform like Instagram is good and bad because it kind of opens your mind to all these different ideas and all these impressions and all these different art styles, and you feel at home. But then at the same time, if it's too much, you start comparing yourself, like, why am I not like that? Should I make work like that? I'm not good enough to join that stuff. Even if you are good enough, you wouldn't feel that way because you're kind of comparing yourself to someone else. And I think that is like kind of the balance that tips, and that's what's happening with those platforms. You see so much, so you're comparing yourself, and I think it happens to everyone. I think even if you are that artist that everyone is comparing themselves to, you will still feel bad because you never feel, I think as an artist, you never feel as good about your work as it actually is. So you can only look at it from a distance, years ahead, and those platforms move so fast, you're never going to get there. And it's the same as, if I'm comparing it, it's the same as weird body standards. So if you look back at, I don't know, when you were a teen and everything was bad and everything sucked, and you looked at your body and were like, oh, I'm getting so fat, and you're looking at it now, 10 years later, and you're like, girl, No. It's just this dysmorphia, this I mean, in that case it's body dysmorphia, but in this case it's like art dysmorphia. That just you never win. You're never gonna win the battle of comparing, because there's always something that you can't do and that you think you should, but you're just not able, because you're just that one person. You're not this god that just does everything at the same time and then is perfect at it. It just doesn't exist. And it's also why I feel so empty after doom scrolling. I mean, I still do it. I wish I wouldn't, but I have this sweet spot of looking at maybe like 5 images or 5 videos from people that I like, and I'm like, oh wow, I'm inspired. And then once I go past that point, it's too much. I feel I'm starting to compare myself. I'm doom scrolling. Yeah, it's literally the only word for it. It's just, it goes bad, and there's no turning back. And then I feel empty for the rest of the day. Or maybe if I'm lucky, I feel empty in the morning. But then morning is my creation time, because I feel most inspired and most new in the morning. And that's ruined. And the only way to feel better is to create stuff myself. So I think I should just lock my phone in a safe until the late afternoon. That might be my solution. But then at the same time, I want to film stuff. I want to look at the time. I want to, I don't know, make the occasional post on Instagram. I don't want to, it feels like a prison, this thing. Internet. I want to have a laptop and throw my phone out the window. I think there was a lot on this topic. What do you think? Because I think platforms are going to change, because people are not liking it anymore, and there's discontent about like all the stuff and all the generic shit. They don't care. I mean, they only care about making money and making you spend as much time on your phone as possible. But I don't think you can continue that indefinitely. I mean, I look at my students, and they're a bit younger, and around 20-ish. And then I've seen it through the years, and it's really bad now that literally everyone in the break time sitting next to each other, and they're just like on their phone, and that's it. Like, that's the break time for 45 minutes. And I've seen it like I've been teaching for like 3 or maybe 4 years now, and in the beginning it wasn't as bad as that. I mean, that's the video thing happening, I think. And I don't even teach that often. I wonder like how other teachers see that, but I've seen it, and I'm like, wow, it's so depressing. You're literally sitting next to other people that have the same interest, and it's just so empty and so not worth it. I just wonder, like, I think we're at this maximum point of content consumption, and we're all going to go back. And maybe it's also because I'm just getting older and I don't have the time anymore, and I don't have the energy to watch all that stuff. I don't have like, I mean, as a kid, you thought you never had time, and then you had all the fucking time in the world. But maybe as a kid, you didn't think you had no time. I think as a teen, you thought you didn't have the time because you had like homework or something. I don't know, it's just stupid stuff, like, or sports. I don't know. But you look back and you're like, oh, I had all the time in the world. I really do think that we're at this tipping point. Like, it's too much, and we're going to go either something is going to disappear, or something is going to change like rapidly, or something else is going to pop up, or we're all going to crash our phones into the walls. Might be nice. Or maybe I'm just done with the internet, and maybe it's not something that is shared. Let me know. I really wonder about your thoughts in this thing. Anyway, those were my thoughts on platforms. They were kind of all over the place, but I don't know. Sometimes I feel like unfiltered thoughts are just nice to share. And it's, as I said, I sometimes feel more at home on the internet sharing thoughts like this than in real life, because most of my friends aren't artists or content creators, or they are artists, but they don't really necessarily have a lot to do with being on the internet, being on social media. It's just like sharing your work and then that's it. But I am. And I feel like there's a lot more of you that are watching these kind of videos. So it feels like kind of just like a critics circle. I don't know, like it used to be a thing. Maybe it's now still, but on the internet. And I'm doing it in a visual podcasty way. So feel free to share your thoughts in the comments, because I would love to hear. I mean, it's like the talking to a wall thing. Would be great if I wouldn't have to talk to a wall. I wonder what the next one is going to be about. I've done the financial anxiety one. I mean, it hasn't been watched that much, but it was a big one for me. It feels like there's this topic in my mind that is just growing and growing and growing, and then once I talk about it like this, uninterrupted, even, what a luxury. And I just kind of process my thoughts. So this video would be processing my thoughts about platforms. I wonder what the next one is about. Yes. Okay. I'm quitting now. See you in the next one.